Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and we got a brand new, exciting, and random episode for you guys this Friday, and that is because Tomb Raider, the original PlayStation 1, PC, Saturn, and every other console could possibly hold game, has been ported in an early alpha version to the Panasonic 3DO. Well, I guess really it works on any 3DO, I'm just testing it on a Panasonic 3DO here, or more specifically an emulator, because when I plugged my 3DO in, I found that it actually went bad since the last time I used it, so fun to be able to play this, annoying that I have to fix that now. But what I really want to talk about is just how cool and amazing of a thing this really is. For somebody to go and port parts of the original Tomb Raider to the 3DO in and of itself is spectacular, but the person that's been working on this, XProger, I'll leave a link to their channel in the description below, has only been working on this for just a few weeks, and it is running in-engine in like the mid to high teens as far as the frame rate's concerned, which probably already puts it over the Saturn release, to be entirely honest, and that was a finished product. But I can't believe I'm watching Lara Croft run around in her mansion on the 3DO. It's just absolutely spectacular, and this did work on my 3DO when I tested it. Unfortunately, it seems like some of the capacitors near the VRAM went bad, so I'm getting really wild colors, impossible to capture, but it booted up first try after burning an ISO to a CDR, and it worked amazingly on original hardware. Now, the audio you're listening to, I did layer in. There's no music to this yet or sound effects, but everything else is functioning. The levels are working the way they would in the original game. When you get to the first snowy level, your guns work, enemies take damage, enemies die, and you take damage as well. So basically, it's just the first two areas from Tomb Raider running on 3DO like it existed on the console in the first place, and who would have ever thought we could say that? Tomb Raider on the 3DO. On the list of things I never thought were likely, Tomb Raider on the 3DO is right up there with getting the Atomiswave games on Dreamcast earlier in the year. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Of course, you could port a game to a console, but the real questions are, one, who would take the time to do it and is talented enough to, and two, would it work? Well, we have the answer to those questions. The person talented enough to do it is XProger, and would it work? 100% absolutely. And you can see you're under the water. It was running at 27 frames a second. And this is just an early alpha. There are no optimizations really done. This is just getting the code to work on 3DO, dealing with the 3DO's graphic structure compared to something like the PlayStation 1 or another system. It's just getting it up and running. And the fact that after only 2 weeks this looks so good, it fully proves that the 3DO probably could have handled a port of Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider could have been a 3DO exclusive when the console was still on the market. And it kind of dispels a lot of the rumors too that the 3DO was garbage at rendering 3D, because this to me looks as good if not slightly better than the Saturn version. No, I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments down below that just say 3DO sucks. They always do. It's never going to end. But we're getting really close to PlayStation 1 quality on something that's only been worked on and obviously just spare time in just a few weeks. Honestly, I could not get a lot done in 2 weeks. Even if I had all the spare time in the world, I wouldn't be able to pull this off. So the fact that it works is spectacular. But let's move on to the next stage in the game, because this is what is working, and this is the iconic first actual action level of Tomb Raider. And it looks pretty awesome, honestly. The draw distance is relatively good. Of course, there's going to be pop-in, but that was on the original consoles as well. But all the mechanics are here, and I was even surprised to see that Lara takes damage. So basically everything that you would expect in the first level of Tomb Raider is incorporated and functioning here on the 3DO. Now, of course, that is just talking about the graphics. Obviously, I put the sound in after the fact, but even though that's not there, what does it really matter? It's spectacular to see this in motion, and again, we're running it like 15 to 20, sometimes in the 30 FPS mark, and that is just something that you would not expect. You would think that if you're going to convert Tomb Raider to the 3DO from the PlayStation 1, if you're going to port it over, that you wouldn't be getting the same type of performance. And I know the maker of this may have been a little bit worried about people thinking that it was going to be not a great port because of how it's running, but honestly, the point that he's gotten it to here in just a few weeks clearly proves that he's got the talent to make the full game Tomb Raider run on the 3DO, probably at the native resolution of what PlayStation 1 did. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I don't want to put any pressure on him. Who knows when he'll be done? Don't bother him to get a copy. There's a link in the video below. You can play it now, and I'm sure he'll finish it, if he does finish it, when he feels like it, because a lot of times when these things get announced, people get impatient and really want to have the full thing. It'll be done when it's done, and we should be thankful that he's even trying to do it in the first place. It's that impressive. But it's just so much fun to run around these environments. And I remember getting Tomb Raider when it came out. I had it on the PC in the original like trapezoidal or triangle box that never fit on a PC shelf. And I really wish I hadn't sold that a long time ago. I'd love to have it back. But now I can have that same relived experience, except on the 3DO, which is obviously one of my favorite consoles of all time. Outside of the fact that my FC1 just stopped working, that annoys me to no end because I only used it like a month ago and everything was fine. And that's how things break. They work fine until they don't. But I'm like way more irrationally angry about that than I really should be, just because I don't have any time whatsoever to open the thing up and repair it. I'm sure it's an easy repair. I may just have a buddy of mine, Archive 3DO, do it. Hey Archive, you're listening to this, maybe you can fix it for me, I'd appreciate it. But anyways, even moving further into the game, the texture work looks really nice as well. I mean, the 3DO is putting up some decent textures, of course. They are warping ever so slightly, but that's nothing that you wouldn't expect on the PlayStation 1 version. Coming in here, the auto-targeting for the bats, everything looks and plays exactly like it should, and that's the highest compliment I can pay to something that's a port, especially done by one person on a different console in such a short period of time. The jumping works. You push the button, Lara jumps. It's as responsive as the original game was, which is to say, kind of responsive, but it's exactly what you would expect from the PlayStation 1 version, except on 3DO. The ledge grabbing works fine, all of the shooting mechanics, the auto aiming, everything that was in the original game, that feature set is replicated here, including the kind of touchy controls. That's something that just is inherent in the original game, and I can't believe we were so like used to that back in the day. We didn't think it was a bad control scheme. Now you go back to a game like this and you wonder, how did we ever deal with the controls? Because I remember when I was a kid trying to go through this section, just falling constantly. It's just so funny how we're so forgiving of nostalgia as far as controls are concerned until you come back to a game again and you're like, how in the hell did I ever play this? But I'm getting a little bit off base. Again, even in this cavernous room, you're starting to see frame rates closer to 10 or 11, but this is a massive environment, and even the PlayStation 1 and the Saturn had trouble running this at full speed, and I'm sure with more optimizations, he can probably get this into the 20s, maybe even close to 30 frames a second on a system that everyone always says is garbage and underpowered. This is proving right now that had Crystal Dynamics decided to make Tomb Raider for the 3DO, it probably would have been a hit. I'm not saying it would have saved the console. It definitely had its own problems and issues as far as the library were concerned, but hardware-wise, it definitely had the chops to keep up with other things on the market, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to see something like Tomb Raider on the systems that would really go to dispel a lot of rumors about the 3DO being weak. But hey, now we do have it. Now we can say those rumors aren't true. All of those, urban legends online that the 3DO's crap. It's good enough to run Tomb Raider, so it must be decent. And the funniest thing is, I remember this bear was down here, and I have not played the original Tomb Raider since I had it as a kid. And I remember that bear scaring me when I first played the game, and I remembered you were down here, bear, and now you died and you didn't scare me. So after like 25 years almost, actually pretty much close to 25 years, because the original game just had its 25th anniversary a few days ago, I finally got my revenge on that bear. And again, I'm getting totally off track. We're talking about a Tomb Raider port for the 3DO, but it's so funny how I distinctly remember getting this game. I think I got it for my birthday, just installing it on my computer and loving it, and just how huge Lara Croft this entire series was before it got bad for a while, and now of course it is good again. But seeing this running on a 3DO is spectacular. Like I said, I would have loved to have shown you footage off my original FC1, but the colors would have given you nausea. But I did test this on Opera, I tested this on Phoenix. All of the emulators run it perfectly fine. I know it's been tested on an FC1, an FC10. I don't know about the Sanyos and the Gold Stars quite yet. But it does also have debug features. If you hit the stop button on a 3DO controller, whatever you map it to, you have a full free camera, and we can roam all around this castle and check out some of the texture work, check out some of the environments, and you can see just how incredibly close they are to the original PlayStation 1 release. And this is, honestly, looks like a PlayStation 1 game to me. An early one, but it still looks PlayStation 1, and that just goes to tell you, again, the 3DO console gets a lot of hell. I get that some of the library isn't great, but there's so many awesome games to talk about on it, and I will do a 3DO series about my favorite games on the system eventually, but now I have to deal with getting mine fixed, which is ever so slightly kind of annoying. But big thanks to XProger for doing this. It's so impressive to see something like this running. Just don't go outside of the boundaries, or else you have to reset if you get lost. But thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. But yeah, there's a Lara Croft, and she's rendering on the 3DO, and I never thought I would say that. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.